Hello, is there sound now? Is there sound now? Hopefully there is. Hopefully that fixed it. Can you guys hear me now? Is it better? Hopefully. Cool. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, sorry. I was just saying hi to everybody. So thank you, Bev. Thank you, Race. Lover, for being on. I am doing well. Just been really busy, and it's been kind of hard keeping up with things. So I've got like a million news items to go through, and it's been a while since I did one of these news live streams. So I've got a lot of articles that I wanted to talk about. I actually had to kind of throw away a whole bunch from earlier in the year just because like it would just, I don't know, I would have been doing this for a week straight or something. So okay, so anyway, I hope you guys are good, and I'm gonna just jump right into it because there are so many stories to cover that I might even have to break this up into two sections because it's gonna just take too long. Hey David, it's been a while, man. Welcome. Glad to see you on. Hope you're good. Okay, so yeah, let me switch to my browser view here so you guys can see what I want to share. And as usual, I'll have all the links for everybody at the end. I'll put them in the comments of the video, so if anybody wants to read them in their entirety, feel free to do so. This first thing I just wanted to show was an article that I found on Twitter. I followed this person, Ben C. They post a lot of things related to climate change and the environment, and just talking about things like basically the need to take action on climate change. And I really like their posts. So check them out if you're on Twitter. This guy Ben C. The handle is @ClimateBen. Shared this article. Global warming will happen faster than we think. And I'm not going to go through this whole article, but basically it's just talking about trends that are quickening the pace of global warming and the effects of basically the climate change and the worsening of the environmental impact. And yeah, basically they're just talking about all the wildfire situation, the flooding situations that will happen, the situations related to people's health from heat waves, and all this kind of stuff. And some of the figures in here are just staggering. So they're basically saying that we're probably at like the idea behind this article is that the pace is going to actually be faster than what the IPCC report suggested, and that it might actually hit that 2 degrees warming probably a decade before they had projected it earlier. So it's actually very severe and very kind of scary stuff. They were basically saying that the extra warming would also expose more than 1.5 billion people to deadly heat extremes and hundreds of millions of individuals to vector-borne disease such as malaria, among other harms. I know a while back I read an article that there were already certain types of illnesses, I think even malaria, that were already showing up in some of the southern parts of Europe that hadn't ever been seen. But because of global warming, there are now different like diseases that are becoming available there to people. So it's just really kind of scary stuff. And for anybody already kind of concerned about the large numbers of people leaving their homes and invading I put this in air quotes because it's a kind of a personal pet peeve of mine, places in Europe and North America from southern regions. You ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, imagine if you have this many people being displaced from their homes because they simply cannot live because it's so hot that they will, basically die without air conditioning. I mean, there are already temperatures seen in southern areas of the world, and the Middle East, and even some parts of like southern Europe that have already been seeing like 50 degrees Celsius and things like this for peaks. Those are insane temperatures. I mean, you see huge numbers of people affected by this in India, Pakistan, Middle East, and different countries, Africa. I mean, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse if we don't take drastic action. So I just I'm not going to go through the article. It's just something interesting to read. Definitely look through it if you get a chance. Global warming will happen faster than we think, and then it just talks about the trends. So check that out, and yeah, let's try to get as much pressure on people as we can to abandon fossil fuels, and let's try to do what we can individually. And obviously, one of the biggest things you can do individually is to adopt a vegan diet and lifestyle, and try to limit your impact. And if possible, if you have a yard, try to grow as much of your own food as you can as well. Hey Frank, welcome. Don't worry, I've got some good news as well, so don't worry. I've got a bunch of bad news though too, so I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that. This one is talking about Australia's wildfires and how climate change has impacted them. Basically, they have larger fires, more fires. Larger areas are burning. Larger areas are more susceptible to burning, etc., etc. And basically, this highlights the need for the Australian government to change policies. But unfortunately, despite them having huge numbers of record drought years and hottest temperatures on average and all these kinds of things over and over again, they are basically ignoring it and just continuing on their push with fossil fuels and coal and other greenhouse gas emitting industries. So it's actually quite sad to see this, but yeah, basically just another thing. California, obviously, a lot of people know that there have been lots of fires there. I was actually very sad to see the news. This was about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I guess now. Big Basin State Park. It experienced a ton of damage from wildfires. And I had the great privilege of running in this park many years ago when I was actually working out in California. I was out there for a work trip. And I got out there for a Saturday, and I just ran for like half the day on the trails in this park, and it was amazing. If anybody lives in California, if you've never had the chance, I would definitely encourage you to check out this park. Hopefully the trees will still be there after the fire. I think at the time of the article, when I read this, they didn't know exactly the extent of the damage to the park. But I know the visitor center burned down, and there was definitely damage done to the trees and to the park. But these beautiful redwood trees are just amazing, and I hope that at least most or hopefully all of them survive, and then people will still be able to enjoy this park. So yeah, I think definitely if anybody's in California, I'm sure you're already way more aware of what's going on. But if anybody's not, there have been ongoing fires there as well. Here I just wanted to also highlight this article showing that it's definitely not just a problem in these areas of the world, but also in places like the UK. This was from similarly a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago I guess now, or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks. UK temperatures passed 34 centigrade for 6 days in a row for the first time since records start. They also hit 35, I think, for I forget, 1 day or a few days or something. Yeah, it was also the third day in a row of mercury hitting 35 or above across the UK, with Wednesday's highest temperature, 35.4, recorded at Heathrow. So it's just insane, and it's just, other people are being affected as well, and in places where people are not used to the heat as well. I saw a lot of posts on Twitter when this was happening, basically, trying to explain the situation for anybody not living in the UK. These temperatures are already way higher than would normally be seen, and so people who live there don't normally have air conditioning or whatever in a lot of places, especially a lot of older homes and things like that. And that is already enough of a temperature increase that can obviously be, at the very least, very uncomfortable for people. But for people who are elderly or have health problems, that could be extremely dangerous. Like they could already have people that are dying from these temperatures. Once it starts getting into the upper 30s, that is actually extremely dangerous for people with health problems, or if they're just elderly and maybe aren't being looked after or don't have help. So people can get heat stroke or exhaustion or whatever, and it's very serious. Bev says it was 37 degrees in Sheffield, UK on that day, nearly expired. Yeah, I don't blame you. 37 is really rough, and especially like imagine if somebody's living in in an upper floor of a house or an apartment or something. If the home isn't set up to kind of like expect these kinds of temperatures, that could be a huge problem. And this is why I said earlier that like in other areas of the world where there have already been temperatures hitting into the 50s for like centigrade, so upper 40s. I mean, that's insane. Most of the houses in the city are around 120 years old or more, not built for this. Yeah, I can imagine, Bev. I know, like when I was living in the U.S., most of the places that we lived, in fact, I think just about all the places I lived, they were all just like the typical kind of like wood frame houses that most of them were really old. I think the first house I lived in was probably like 114 years old, if I remember right, at that time. And it had like these like 6-inch walls or something. There was like very little to no kind of insulation or anything like that. And places like that got really hot in the summer, and we didn't have anything like as hot for as prolonged periods of time as we do now. Thanks for being on, Frank. It's been good to see you, man. Hope you're good too, and hope to see you soon. So yeah, it's very serious, and it's definitely going to impact more and more people as time goes on. Now, another thing that I wanted to also highlight here is this long-term exposure to air pollution. It was linked to impaired breathing in children. This was an interesting study that I just came across a few days ago, actually. And it basically found that babies exposed to levels of air pollution that were even within the EU standards. So this wasn't even things that surpassed that. It was within the guidelines or whatever. They still develop poorer lung function as children and teenagers, according to research presented at the European Respiratory Society International Congress. The study also suggests that some forms from exposure to pollution can be reduced if babies are breastfed for at least 12 weeks. And they basically looked at different people living in different areas, 2 regions of Germany, Munich and Wessel. The children had tests to measure their breathing at the ages of 6, 10, or 15 years, and the tests recorded how much air they could breathe out after taking their deepest breath. And yeah, they basically found that all the way into teenagehood, it can basically impact them. The more air pollution there is, the worse they performed in these tests. So I thought this was very interesting and definitely something to consider, especially if you do have young children. Like where you live really, really matters, and being in a big city is definitely having an impact. And I mean, it's just sad that like this is, and you can only imagine how bad it must be in a place where the pollution is even worse than what the guidelines say is a safe standard. So it's just really crazy. This next one, it's not related to people directly, but of course this impacts people because of the impact to food source, whether you're plant-based or omnivore or carnivore or whatever, because most of the animals that people eat as well rely on plants to be pollinated. It's basically showing that air pollution impacts the health of wild pollinators. And what they did was they looked at various bee populations around Bangalore, and what they found was that the wild pollinators around the more polluted areas, they had lower flower visitation rates. They were more susceptible to all sorts of diseases and illnesses, and they basically pollinated less stuff. So they were far more likely to die out and experience all sorts of kind of problems. So this could have a huge impact, and really it should be eye-opening for people that the air pollution we make is not just impacting us directly. It's potentially impacting everything, and this is very serious stuff. So I definitely recommend people check out this article as well, and yeah, spread the word and try to do as much as you can for pollinators in your area. So if you do have a yard, again, I always say this. Don't grow a lawn, grow plants, grow food, have fruit bushes, fruit trees, flowers even. Just leave dandelions in your yard. Even that is better than a lawn, and that will help local bee populations and various other bugs and little critters that are very important to the ecosystem, as a whole. Next, and I'm sorry if I'm going a little too fast, but I really did want to just get through all these things. This one I just wanted to share. It's a petition demanding a coroner's inquest into the death of Regan Russell. If anybody isn't aware, she was a vegan activist for many years of her life. I don't know exactly how long, but oh yeah, here it is. A committed activist since 1977. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy. I was born in 78. This lady was a activist from even before I was born. And sadly, she was killed after she was struck by a truck at a vigil in front of a slaughterhouse. They were doing a vigil with the Toronto Pig Save. And, they were stopping the trucks and giving water to the pigs. And this truck driver, basically, from all accounts that I've seen, seems like fairly, I would say, intentionally, basically struck her with his truck, and she died from her injuries. And this petition is actually calling for an inquest into the matter, and and demand basically, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm thinking of? Shoot, I can't think of it. Justice, but like it's just laughable to say that. Like it's not going to be justice. She's obviously already passed away, but I mean for her family and for her friends and for other people who are activists, I think getting some answers for this would be nice, and punishing the driver, because this, from all accounts that I've seen, it really seems like he intentionally basically hit her with the car. So it's vehicular manslaughter, I think is what they call that usually. I don't know if I would call it like intentional murder, or maybe the guy just flipped out or whatever, but still it's insane that somebody would kill somebody over stopping a truck for a few minutes to give water to suffering pigs who probably hadn't had any kind of food or water for their whole journey, and which usually can last even multiple days. It's really terrible. No problem, Bev. Take it easy. And talk to you soon. Bye. So this, that was kind of a whole bunch of bad news. I want to give some good news too, because I just always feel bad when I have just like bad news after bad news. And, I want to share some good news too. So basically I just saw this. This was saying that 1 in 3 Brits are having vegan milk in their cups of tea as shoppers opt for dairy-free products. And they're basically saying that it is not just young people, so it's not just the trendy millennials. If anybody knows the, Daily Mail, like they're a terrible newspaper. Like they often have kind of like anti-vegan articles, and they, I think, regularly kind of try to slag veganism. Yeah, dude, that is a really sad story about Regan. It's terrible. Lady devoted like so much of her life to activism, and to die that way is just, it's just awful. I feel so sad for her and her family. So in this article, I think the best news that I saw was that they're saying that it's not just young people. It's basically all ages are adopting more and more plant-based milks from the surveys that they found. And they basically said 32% of households in Britain bought dairy-free alternatives, and that's up from 23% just last year and 13% in 2017. So to go from 13% in 2017 and in 3 years, almost triple that. That's pretty awesome. So I think that's really good. I was happy to see this, and then basically the implication is that there's just that many less people supporting milk, and if you are, or I should say dairy milk, and that is a huge thing. A lot of people don't realize the cruelty involved in dairy production, and by eliminating that, that's actually a huge benefit, and it's a huge benefit to the environment as well. A long time ago, I did a series for February Dairy, and you can still see those on my channel. But I did one specifically talking about the environmental impact of dairy, and you can see that a medium to large size dairy contributes more greenhouse gases than even a fracking well. So it's very serious stuff, and to see that more and more people are basically switching out for a non-dairy alternative. I think that's just really good. Hey Jen, welcome. Just drink black tea the way it was intended. Yep. I don't usually put milk in my tea either, and I don't drink coffee. So, but I do like putting milk in cereal and stuff like that. Walking the dogs in the rain, cool. I'm sure they like that. This was an interesting thing I saw on Plant-Based News. They shared a study that was proving that basically men's testosterone levels were independent of the fact that they were eating plant-based or not. So what they did was they looked at people eating plant-based and not plant-based, and what they found, pretty good age range here as well, between 30 and 60 years old. They concluded that it had no impact. So basically, plant-based food content in diet is not associated with serum testosterone levels. It simply did not matter. And we found a plant-based diet was associated with normal testosterone levels, levels that are the same as occur in men who eat a traditional diet that includes more meat. So yeah, basically, it simply did not matter whether men ate a traditional animal heavy food diet, a vegan diet, or a whole food plant-based diet. He said we found no difference. So this fear that a lot of anti-vegans like to bring out and say that, you know, you're going to ruin your testosterone levels or somehow lose your manliness because you're not eating meat specifically or other animal products is just rubbish. And, you know, study after study has proven this as well and shown it. And I know that in the past, I know some vegans, I've also touted some studies that have shown that vegan men on average had higher blood serum testosterone levels. So anyway, I mean, I think at best, like, you know, it might be better, and at worst, it's no worse. So there's no reason to, you know, to consume animal products for that. So that's just another nice thing that can be pointed to. Now, oh, I skipped the wrong way here. This one I just wanted to give as kind of a bit of good news in the sense that I did not know about this. So if anybody's a fan of the Misfits, their guitar player from back in the day, this guy Doyle, I forget what is his first name. I don't know, is it like Bram something? He's got some long name. Anyway, but he's vegan. I didn't even know. And this is just a cool little interview with him. And I don't know if it's his wife or if it's his girlfriend. I think they're married, but I'm not sure. Alyssa, and she is from the band Arch Enemy, I think is the band name, right? Yeah, Arch Enemy. And so anyway, so when they started like dating, I guess she was already vegan, and she had been a lifelong vegetarian and a long time vegan, like since the 90s. And basically, they started, you know, dating, and she got him into veganism, and he's been vegan now for I don't know how many years. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know if you've ever like seen the dude. Like, he's pretty jacked and big, and kind of another one of these good examples, I guess, that can be pointed to, that you can be muscular and pretty big and still be vegan. And I thought there was a really great quote in here. Where was it? And I just wanted to share you that one little thing. Oh yeah, this was great. So they ask him, how has being vegan affected your artistic projects? So Doyle says, I would say the only way it has affected my projects is that it gives me a platform to enlighten people who don't know about veganism and teach them and show them what's up. Also, I like to show them that you can be an absolute beast and be vegan. So I get my protein the same place they do, the effing store. I thought that was great. And yeah, I mean, how easy is it to be vegan now? And this whole idea of, like, you know, manliness and testosterone and protein and all these kinds of things, it's such a joke. Like, I mean, people are going to, you know, to the supermarket and buy their meat in cellophane, you know, like styrofoam trays and stuff, and they think that they're some lion on the savannas of Africa or whatever. It's ridiculous. David, I wonder what Joe TRT from the age of 38 professional anti-vegan and plant activist Rogan would say about that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you look at pictures of this guy, he looks way more jacked than Rogan. But anyway, fun fact: Arch Enemy's former singer Angela Gosgow is also vegan. Oh, cool! I didn't know that. I think she's managing the band, right, or something like that. Because I think the former singer became the manager, and then Alyssa took over or something. And you would probably know because they're from Sweden, right, David? I think so. I think they're from Sweden. Anyway, But yeah, so I just thought that was kind of good. Now on back to some more bad news, but I promise I have more good news later, guys. There was a big oil spill in Mauritius. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry if I am not. But basically, a oil ship ran aground, and for the most insane reason like that I've ever heard, I think they were basically speculating at the time of this article. But it seems like the captain had like been charged, I guess, or maybe he was arrested. I think. I can't remember exactly what it was. Oh yeah, here it is. The ship's captain, 50-year-old Sunil Kumar, has been arrested over the incident, charged with endangering safe navigation. Police said crew members had told them there had been a birthday party on the ship the day it ran aground. Another theory being investigated is that the ship navigated close to the shore in order to pick up Wi-Fi signal. And it's just like, it's crushing when you see this. If you go and just look up other stories about this, the impact to wildlife and marine life there is just immense. And this is a very pristine area of the world. Like, there should never be oil in these kinds of places. Well, there shouldn't be in any place, but it's a particularly kind of like bad place to happen. And there's like 1,000 tons of oil that already went into the water there and all this kind of stuff. It's insane. And oh, she's from Germany. Okay, partially from Sweden. Okay, cool. Thanks, David. So, yeah, just crazy stuff. I haven't really seen this being covered too much in a lot of places. I kind of had to look for it. Somebody on Twitter told me about it, and then I started looking for articles to share with you guys. But it's just sad that a lot of these things don't even make front page anymore. And despite, all the good reasons to give up fossil fuels, like, we just still keep pulling up more of it and dumping it in the water. I mean, it's insane. And this idea that the guy went close to shore to pick up a Wi-Fi signal, that's just like mind-blowing. I have to hope that at least that part can't be true, but who knows? People are just so unbelievably stupid sometimes. This is another story that I wanted to show you guys that has been kind of ongoing, I guess, for a while in the UK. There is a high-speed rail that they want to put in. It's called the HS2 project. I think that's high-speed 2 or something. I don't know, but whatever. It's like the high-speed train that they want to put in place. And it's going to be... Here it is. It's a rail line being carved through the countryside between London, Birmingham, Manchester, and Leeds. And unfortunately, they want to put this path directly through like a whole bunch of ancient woods. So there, according to the Woodland Trust, 108 ancient woods are in the frame. And yeah, basically it's going to have a huge impact to wildlife and various old trees, and yeah, it's terrible. And people have been fighting it for a long time, and they were even saying that people have protested and tried to save particular trees, but I mean, it's bad news. There was the oldest pear tree is a 250-year-old pear tree, and they're basically going to cut this down to make way for this stupid project. And yeah, it's basically pretty sad when you look at the stats here. It says just 2% of Britain is ancient woodland, older than 400 years in England and Wales. It often features old trees, dead wood, a habitat for rare beetles and flora such as native bluebells. But the key, say ecologists, is its soil. Even where ancient woodland has been replanted with newer trees, its soil is still undisturbed, chemical-free, and rich in fungi, microorganisms, and the seeds of future life. So disturbing this and putting in a rail line that goes through it is very, very bad. And there are several people who are trying to fight this. This article talks specifically about this really old pear tree, and it still bears fruit. It's 250 years old, and there's a bunch of people trying to save it. And there's actually a petition that you can sign to try to save the tree. From what I've read, I think there's very little chance of this being saved. But I ask anybody who is in the UK, if you can, then please, please do try to sign this and try to get it saved. I think that'd be kind of nice. There's another petition that I want to share with you guys. This one is in the U.S. I've done so many of these live streams, these news live streams, and it seems like in every other one or so, I find some kind of like horrific like animal abuse touted as some kind of entertainment that somebody thankfully now is trying to put a petition to stop. But this is something that I haven't heard about before. It's like there's always something new. I'm never, I don't know, like done with these. Like it's crazy. There's always something new. Basically, it's something that is a horse show, and they have this thing called Tennessee walking horses. And basically what they do is they take the horses and they torture them to learn how to do the big lick, whatever this move is. It is a pain-induced gait. The horses throw their legs high while wearing chains and 6 to 8 pound stack shoes. So these are the shoes that they put on the horses to make them change the way they walk. Caustic chemicals are applied to sensitive skin above the horse's hooves and then wrapped with plastic to cook in the chemicals which cause the skin to be blistered. When the chains hit the skin, the horses throw their front legs high while squatting down on their back legs, creating the cruel big lick. So, this Tennessee show is, it says the only horses in America which wear chains in the show ring, and these people putting together this petition are trying to get it banned. Basically, hopefully they do get it banned. It looks like they've had some previous minor successes. So it says in March 2015, the North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture banned the Big Lick Tennessee walking horses from the 2015 North Carolina State Fair. And that came after 20,000 signatures were obtained on change.org and a public protest was held. So, hopefully this, this can happen here as well. But it says in 2015, vet inspectors disqualified a shocking 35% of all the Big Lick Tennessee walking horses they inspected for allegedly being in violation of the Horse Protection Act, which is animal cruelty. So, again, it looks like the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture even took action in 2016, and they said over 81% of the public comments favor the federal regulation of the Horse Protection Act. So please, if anybody is in the U.S., definitely sign this. And hi, Carrie. It's been a long time. I hope you're well. Yeah, humans do suck. I don't know how people figure out this kind of stuff. Like it's bad enough to, breed and torture animals for the purpose of eating them, but to do it for fun, for like entertainment, I never have understood that. Even when I was eating animals, I could not understand bullfighting and these kinds of things. Like, why would you do this? It's just so evil. Like I just don't even understand how this could be entertaining to somebody. It's sick. They do have a fair number of people have signed. So, like I said, in that other petition, they only had 20,000, and they got it banned in North Carolina. So please, if you can, sign this, and I think that would be great. They already have 138,000 signatures out of 150,000 that they're looking for. So please, if you can, sign this. Back on the climate change kind of topic. This article is talking about the ice that has been lost, and basically they kind of started tallying up all the ice that has melted, and they basically say that there are 28 trillion tons of ice that has been lost to global warming in the last 23 years. So it's crazy. Jen, are you talking about a documentary about this, about the ice, or the horses? I'm not sure. Anyway, so it's basically, they're saying that it's a staggering amount of ice, and by analyzing satellite surveys, the group found that melting glaciers and ice sheets could cause sea levels to rise dramatically, possibly reaching a meter, which is 3 feet by the end of the century. And again, this doesn't sound like a lot when you just think like, oh, okay, the ocean's going to rise by 3 feet, like who cares, right? But like, you should care, because for every, I think whatever it is, I don't know, however many, an inch or something, like it displaces like so many people who live on the coasts of the of the world, and it's like a huge impact. I'm trying to find the number. I think they talked about it in this article. Shoot, I don't know if it's in this one. It may have been a different article that I read, but basically it is a huge problem. Like every little bit is here it is. To put that in context, every centimeter, so 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So every centimeter of sea level rise means about 1 million people will be displaced from their low-lying homelands. So basically, if it does rise by a meter, that's 100 times 1 million. So that's 100 million people that will be displaced from their homes by the end of the century because of the rising sea levels. So that's just really crazy. Oh, Jen, so it's about the horses. If you've got a name for the documentary, like post it in the chat, and I'll put it in the links as well. About the horses. Thanks. Sorry for these pictures. I'm gonna go off the article really soon. I know this stresses a lot of people, but I just wanted to share this as well. This was from just a week ago or so. Just another incidence of like a supposedly high standard, high welfare farm getting caught with horrific conditions, terrible conditions. I'm not going to scroll through because there's even worse pictures. But basically, starving pigs, cannibalized pigs, diseased pigs, dead pigs all over the place. And again, animal activists with hidden cameras expose this cruelty. And it's just another one of these things where like the high welfare standard things are just a lie. Like people just buy these products thinking that they're buying a humane product, and they don't know that they're contributing to this kind of cruelty, and it's just simply terrible. So I'm going to move off that picture and go to something that again is some positive news. I found this on CNN, which was kind of nice to see on a mainstream news site. They were basically touting the advantages of the environmental friendly aspect of plant-based eating. So they obviously are not pro-vegan. I mean, they're basically telling people to do the whole kind of reducitarian kind of approach, like take out red meat, try to replace it with lower impact things like chicken and fish and whatever. Although the fish is very questionable, and I don't know why they think that that is lower environmental impact. In some ways, I can understand why they think it's lower impact, but the impact to the ocean by fishing is extremely, extremely bad, and that by extension to the whole world is so bad. But anyway, it's basically just still largely positive, I think, because they are basically saying like focus on unprocessed, whole food, plant-based kind of things. And one thing I didn't like about the article is that they kind of did this almost like backhanded compliment to the plant-based diet, because they basically are trying to do this whole like, oh, but don't replace like a hamburger with like a meat, a plant-based meat patty, because that's not good for you either, because it'll still have a lot of saturated fat and whatever. And it's like, okay, is it any better for you health-wise? It probably still is in my mind, because at least it doesn't have cholesterol. But I could see where they would say, okay, it has the same amount of saturated fat and salt, and that's probably not good for your health. I certainly do not promote that for health, and I do not say, go out and eat, tons of like, vegan meat replacement products. But I still think overall it's probably more healthy than eating, actual animals and animal products, and the environmental aspect is way better. So even for those junk foods, people aren't going vegan necessarily for their health. And there's a lot of people who aren't going to be, eating a whole food plant-based diet. But if they could at least get rid of the cruelty and lower a lot of the environmental impact by even eating just vegan junk food, it's still a win. Those people aren't going to be like super healthy as omnivores either. They're not going to be like worried about their health. They're not going to be going to the gym. So why does it matter if they just simply switch their, omnivorous, unhealthy diets to a slightly less bad but vegan diet, and lower their environmental impact, lower their, contribution to cruelty and suffering of animals? Like so I don't really like the article in that sense, but the overall message is still positive, that they are basically saying like, yeah, like we have to do this because these little changes that everyone can make will have a big impact, and blah 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 blah. So overall, I think it's positive to see this and get the little seeds planted in people's minds that like, yes, your individual choice of what you eat does have a major impact, and I think that is good. Oh, hey, veganista, welcome. Daniel, welcome. That's why it's important to get a vegan lifestyle coach. In a way, yeah, like, but it's funny because, like, why does going vegan have to be, this thing of like, oh, well, you can't have vegan junk food anymore? Like, nobody told you can't have McDonald's before, and it's like, just because you want to do something good for the environment or for, the animals, now all of a sudden you have to be this like super healthy, like whole food plant-based person too. Like, again, that's what I promote. That's what I try to eat for the most part. But I do have vegan junk food occasionally, and I don't feel bad about it either. Like, I just think like it's kind of annoying when articles like this try to put this in a spin of like, well, like they're trying to tell people like eat less hamburgers and eat less steaks, but don't eat those like vegan replacements because they're not healthy for you either. And it's like, well, you're talking about the environment. Why are you bringing health into it? They're two kind of separate things. So yeah, it's not really the same thing. Carrie says healthier for the animals for sure. Well, that's for damn sure. You're absolutely right there. And you just got accredited with a life coaching course. Cool. Congratulations, Daniel. That's awesome. Next, another bit of good news. Canada, our friends up north, they are basically touting the benefits of plant-based milk, specifically oat milk, replacing dairy, and how it's a huge business opportunity for the oat producers up in Canada. A lot of the other kinds of milk, dairy milk replacements can't be grown in some of the areas of Canada, but they can grow oats, and they are basically saying that it's a huge market for them. So here there's a quote from one of the, I think he's a farmer, Boatger is an oat farmer and has been proud of the crop's reputation as a heart healthy cereal, but he didn't foresee that oats, of which Canada is the world's largest exporter, boasting 75% of the global market, would become the darling of independent coffee shops and hipster grocery stores almost overnight. So they talk about just like, how many, millions of dollars there are in this, and how it's great for their, economy and all this kind of stuff. And then of course they kind of bring it in back to the here it is, the Prairie Oat Growers Association. And they basically try to say that, look, we're not trying to say that, you shouldn't drink dairy milk here. Our position is that the Oat Grower Board is not that it's more environmentally friendly to drink oat milk versus dairy milk. We've not done that study, and we've not looked at it. We would encourage people to drink the milk that's best for them, and hopefully oat milk fits for some people. If you have looked into it, and you should if you haven't, oat milk is like a fraction of the environmental impact of dairy milk. Dairy milk is extremely bad, both from a sense of greenhouse gas contribution as well as water pollution and water usage. It's like miles worse than oat milk, and oat milk is actually one of the better plant-based milks for environmental impact if you look at like water usage and other kinds of impact. So this person's being very, very intentionally naive or outright lying, I would say. But you would have to be basically stupid to make a statement like this, that it's not more environmentally friendly to drink oat milk versus dairy milk. It's way better. So basically it's kind of ridiculous. And you can make oat milk at home. It's so easy. In one of the videos that I did for February Dairy, I actually show how I make it. And since then, I've actually even simplified my process. I don't even use a cloth bag anymore to strain the oats. I just use like a little tea strainer. It's not quite as fine a product, but I find that it works perfectly adequately. I'll probably do an updated video where I just show that at some point if people are interested. But it takes minutes to make oat milk at home. You don't have to pre-soak anything. It's just, you just get a blender and some oats and water, and yeah, I mean, it takes like minutes. It's so simple. Like, I just recommend everybody make oat milk at home. It's the easiest thing to do. Lots of comments. Do life coach selects people who are ready and increases their knowledge retention. Oatly's investment snafu, investing with Blackstone. Yep, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, Daniel. It's a huge investment and just more capitalist BS. Another way to sell sugar and oil. Ferment your own oats for its B12 benefits. I have not fermented oats before. I should look into that. That's pretty cool. For sure, growing oats and bulgur and other grasses is part of cover crop and no-till systems. Yep, that's cool. Oh, Daniel, are you asking about where's the vid for making oat milk? I'll show it to you. Here, I'll just do it right now. I have a bunch of videos on February Dairy. I think there were 4 if I remember right. Let me just look it up here. February Dairy, like this. Yeah, so there was one that I did about the environmental impact, and I show you how to make sesame seed milk. That's this one. Then there's one that I did about making oat milk, and I talk about the myths around the humaneness and the ethics of dairy. That's this one. And then I showed one about making ice cream. So check out that one. That one is talking about the health consequences of dairy consumption. And then I made another video too somewhere. Oh yeah, this one. This was the last fiber dairy one that I made. This was talking about, well, what can you do instead of farming dairy and switching to plant-based alternatives. So check that out if people haven't seen those. Those were fun videos. I spent quite a bit of time making those. You guys should check those out. You're making ginger bugs. What's a ginger bug? I don't know. Jen, what is that? Daniel, check out this recipe for a sweet fermented Bulgar drink. I don't know why it's not showing your link. I think I probably have to make you some kind of admin or something. Just put it in the comments after, Daniel, and I'll pin it if you've got a recipe like that. Ooh, ice cream. Yeah. Ice cream is so easy to make from bananas. It's crazy. I show it here. Check out that video. It's really cool. I've been fermenting bananas and using it as a syrup for my oatmeal. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that either. Man, I gotta look into some of these things. Let's see. Where were we? Ooh, we still have so many articles. I really gotta speed up. We're probably gonna have to like take a break at some point, and I'll finish this up tomorrow night or something. Oh, ginger for ginger beer. Cool. Fermented ginger. I like ginger beer, and I like root beer too. I like all those kinds of things. Those are tasty. I gotta get some recipes. Hold on, ad blocker. Let's turn off the ad blocker for a second here. I thought I did that before when I was getting ready. Anyway, as Daniel mentioned, there was a bit of a backlash against Oatly this past week. Oh, that's a bummer. It thinks I'm using AdBlock even though I turned it off. That's really annoying. Anyway, check out this article. It's basically talking about how people are really upset because Blackstone is a private equity firm. They have done some really, really shady, bad, terrible, kind of unethical things with many of their investments in many other companies. And I definitely don't think it's a good idea that Oatly or anybody else would take money from that company. But what I found actually from just reading this article is that a lot of people who were claiming that one of the subsidiaries of Blackstone was responsible for a road going through the Amazon forest and causing deforestation. And what this article is saying is they're basically parroting a statement from Blackstone saying that those accusations are false and that they're not true, and that the road in question is an industrial road owned by the Brazilian government, and blah, 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 blah. Now, I haven't actually looked into this, so I don't know whether that's true or not. I certainly, from what I know about Blackstone and how unethical they are and some of the other shady dealings that they've done in other companies that they've invested in, I certainly wouldn't put it past them to, like, basically knock down trees in the Amazon and put up a road. So certainly I think I haven't had time to look into it. Take it for what it is, but this article at least is saying that part of it is not true. But they are responsible for putting millions of dollars, close to $4 million, as this article even says, $3.7 million into the pocket of a group responsible for trying to get Trump reelected. Think what you will about politics. I sadly don't think there's much difference between the major political parties and the major candidates. So, I certainly don't think Trump is any real worse than any of the other candidates or presidents we've had. But I certainly think he's a very evil and terrible person, and I think, supporting that person with $3.7 million is certainly not something that I would want to support. And especially knowing how easy it is to make oat milk at home, I would definitely encourage everybody to do it and not buy into this kind of company. And then the last thing about Oatly here, there were a couple things that I didn't like. One thing I saw on Twitter was somebody called them out for a previous post they did way back in like, I think it was like 2014 or something, where on one of the Veganuary days they were posting stuff about how they're vegan, and then like just now somebody posted a or reposted one of their tweets where they were basically saying that they're not vegan and that they're just a company, and they make vegan products, and but then other people have pointed out that they do some shady stuff where they sell the grains that are left over from making the milk, basically the strained out pulp, and they sell it to pig farmers. So that's not cool, and I definitely think, like, for a company that was touting itself as a vegan company back in 2014, and now they're admittedly not a vegan company anymore, and they've they admitted that they do sell their pulp to pig farmers. I think that's pretty bad. I certainly wouldn't say that the company is vegan. I don't think that you can say the product isn't vegan. I mean, I would still say their oat milk product is vegan, but I definitely don't think the company is by any means any kind of like ethical pinnacle that we should look up to. So that's my take on it, if anybody's interesting. And Daniel's saying that's more upsetting than Miley Cyrus. Are you talking about the Blackstone deal? So you're someone who makes oat milk at home too. Yep. It's so easy to do, man. It's so simple. Like, it's ridiculous easy. I'm gonna make an updated video where I show my new method for doing it, because it's even easier than the one in that other video. And selling pulp to big farmers is definitely like pretty bad, and I wouldn't support that. Now, the other thing is with Blackstone, if anybody's not familiar, they are a very, very shady organization. There was a great, very short video by Redacted Tonight talking about the Blackstone Group buying Ancestry.com and raising the question of what they're going to do with people's private information and DNA information and all this kind of stuff. And in this article, or in this video, I should say, they talked about how another company that Blackstone invested in was Motel 6, the motel chain in the U.S. If anybody's watching not from the U.S., it's basically like a large chain of motels throughout the country. And Motel 6 was in a bit of a, I don't even know what the word is for it, but like a little fracas there where they had to pay out $12 million after it was found out that they were improperly giving guest information. They willy-nilly, like voluntarily handed over guest lists of who was staying in their motels to ICE agents, and basically the ICE agents were then showing up and detaining and arresting, and in some cases deporting people from the motel based on those lists. And what they were doing is they were just simply scanning the list, looking for people with Hispanic sounding names, and then questioning and detaining and holding people back. And in fact, it was determined that there were people who were like basically arrested and detained without actual any kind of like due course, no legal things, like all of these things were completely illegal, and there was no warrant issued. There was no like any kind of like legal requirement for Motel 6 to hand over this information, but they did it anyway, and that's why they actually had to pay this fine. And some of the people that were detained incorrectly, so they were actually in the country legally, but they suffered embarrassment and separation from their family and all this kind of stuff. And that's why these people had to pay the settlement. So this is just one example of Blackstone's kind of impropriety. I would definitely look into it if anybody's curious about that. So the fact that they are, heavily invested into Oatly now is certainly less than desirable in my mind. Anyway, moving on. A little bit of good news here. This was actually from earlier in the year. It was basically coming out of Finland, and basically they did a little small scale analysis, and what they found was that universal basic income seemed to improve employment and well-being among the people that were that it was given to. So this was interesting because a lot of people, I think, have universal basic income kind of painted in a negative light, where they say like, well, why would I go to work if I could just receive money from the government just for simply being alive, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people say like, this is crazy communism and all this kind of, nutty stuff. And what this what this found, this little study that they ran over the course of 2 years, they found that the people who got the payments were actually feeling better, and they actually improved their employment status. So it did not stop them from going and looking for work, or feeling good, or feeling good about themselves and all this kind of stuff. It's a very interesting article. It's not really related to veganism per se, but I just wanted to share it, and definitely read through it if you get a chance. I think it's pretty interesting. Daniel says the carrot of affluence is dangled in front of their faces to push them forward. Yeah, I think people really need to start realizing like when enough is enough, and certainly the consumerist society and culture that we live in now, I think is very harmful and dangerous, and I think we really do need to start looking at like what makes people happy. And I think I've talked before in one of the live streams about the movie The Economics of Happiness. I would definitely encourage everybody to watch that if you haven't seen that yet. It's a very, very good movie, and it's really cool. Here I just want to show, as I do in almost every one of these news live streams, another case of like, food poisoning and, recalls and all this kind of stuff due to, meat products and animal products being tainted with this, that, or the other virus or bacteria or some kind of infection. And this was just from a while back, but coronavirus was found on the surface of chicken wings from Brazil. Health organizations say it is unlikely that people can contract COVID-19 from food or food packaging. Well, it's unlikely, but I mean, it's not out of the question. And who's to say that the next pandemic won't spread even worse? The fact is that these pandemics come from the breeding and killing of animals, and now we just have we have a choice in front of us as a species. Do we want to keep introducing and creating new viruses and bacteria that we can spread through our insatiable appetite for more and more stuff, and just this insane like drive for taste pleasure, which is ridiculous anyway, because there are now vegan alternatives that are like virtually identical. It's just crazy. Like I don't know where it's gonna end. Socio-political anthropology in a nutshell. It's crazy to think everything is changing rapidly right now. The contamination with coronavirus not being talked about much by the media, like the media not talking about bacon causes cancer and that whole conspiracy. Yeah, people don't want to see this. People don't want to know this. They're trying to like tame the fear that they know people will see when they see this kind of headline. So right away, they even in the sub headline, they have to tell people like, no, it's going to be okay. Just make sure to cook it. Just make sure to cook it, all right? And then wash your countertop and your sink, and throw away your sponges after. Put them in the microwave. It's like, why would you want to eat something that you have to like basically cook in a hazmat suit and like burn it to the point that like the bacteria and the whatever are killed? It's insane. I guess then you can also be like Aginus and just eat it raw, and then be like Sverge and end up with like Campylobacter infection that paralyzes his arm. But yeah, who knows? It's more than taste pleasure. It's saturated fat addiction. You could technically supplant it with palm oil. I think it's a lot of things, but it's definitely like the tradition and the kind of like culture and whatever. I mean, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of things in there. This one, I just wanted to very quickly point out Jane Goodall. I don't think she's vegan. From everything I've read, I think she's just been a very, very long-term vegetarian. Probably mostly vegan, I guess, or like almost vegan from a diet perspective, largely plant-based, or however you want to call it. But she's been a vocal proponent for more plant-based living and eating, and conserving habitat for wild species and all this kind of stuff. And she has basically come out and said that basically humanity's done if we don't change and go to more and more plant-based and get rid of animal exploitation and animal agriculture specifically. So it's just interesting, and I think it's good to have a voice like hers. A lot of people respect her, and a lot of non-vegan people respect her as well. So I think it's good to see her basically saying this, that we basically need to stop like animal agriculture, and if we don't, we're going to be done as a species. It's going to wipe us out. So anyway, another thing that I wanted to share too, in case people don't know, this is not a new article. It's from 2018. It's just something I just wanted to share really quick. Is another huge contribution to greenhouse gases and CO2 emissions specifically is concrete. The production of concrete is actually worse in some ways than a lot of other things. So it says making cement is the source of about 8% of the world's carbon dioxide. If the cement industry were a country, it would be the third largest emitter in the world behind China and the US. It contributes more CO2 than aviation fuel, 2.5%, and is not far behind global agriculture business, which is 12%. Now, I think this is actually low for the global agriculture business. I don't know where these figures are coming from what report. I think from most of the reports that we see nowadays, a much larger percentage is attributed to this, but in any case, 8% is still a lot, and they talk about the need to supplant this with new technology, and they talk about some alternatives, and there was actually some good kind of news buried in this article about new options. One thing they didn't talk about, which I thought is kind of sad, they didn't mention hempcrete. Hempcrete is a concrete-like substance that you can make from hemp and lime, and I think it's just sand or soil. I'm not sure the exact mixture, but I've seen buildings built with it. It's flame retardant, soundproof, like very good thermal properties, insulative properties. It's water resistant to the point that you can use it even in a foundation. It's very easy to work with. It's not toxic. It's awesome stuff. So I don't know why they didn't, mention that. Maybe there are some other considerations that I'm not aware of in this article, but they did mention some other alternatives, and there are some pretty cool things in here. So definitely check this out. This one was Biocement startup, grows bricks out of sand and bacteria, and they make similar kind of blocks that can be used. So it's pretty interesting, but definitely check this out if you guys are so inclined and if you're interested. This one is talking about the impact of fracking. That's a fractured well, drilling in the southern portion of the U.S., basically like New Mexico and Arizona and other places, and the impact on tribal communities there. So basically like the Navajo and I forget which other Indian groups there, Native American groups, sorry, and basically just talking about their impact there, the water being poisoned, the gases causing headaches and people to get asthma and all this kind of stuff, and also just highlights some of the dirty dealings for the shady kind of things going on. And if anybody hasn't seen the videos I did a while back talking about Dr. Avi's claims about organic being carnist, in the video I did showing why I think he's wrong about that, there was one where I spent quite a bit of time talking about fracking and the impact of that, and a large part of the artificial fertilizer that non-organic farming uses very heavily comes from fracking and contributes to these problems. So bear that in mind when you're reading this and seeing the very real human impact to native peoples here. And basically ends with this quote here: "Their greed is going to kill us." And sadly, it's not just us in the sense of this small group of people somewhere in New Mexico. It's a large group of people, and really this is impacting the whole world. So I just think in any kind of political spectrum that you look at it, and regardless of what you believe in, in regards to the current administration in the U.S. or whatever, this is a huge problem, and people should be worried about this. Hi, Leon. Yeah, you're late, but don't worry, you can always watch later. And also, there's still quite a bit left to go, so there's still more to come. Bit of good news here. Greta Thunberg, I never know how to pronounce her name. Thunberg. She got £1 million, or no, not pounds, sorry, it's euros. €1 million as an award from a climate group. So basically, they gave her a huge prize, which is like $1.15 million. It's 1 million euros. And she has very graciously awarded the prize money to various environmental groups. She's going to split up the money. She doesn't want to keep it for herself, so it's really cool. She's awarded the prize for humanity, and let's see. Oh, this is one of the groups that she's awarding it to. Sorry. So the first 100,000 euros of the prize money will go to SOS Amazonia, led by Fridays for Future Brazil, to tackle the coronavirus outbreak in the Amazon. Another 100,000 will go to Stop Ecocide Foundation to support their work to make ecocide an international crime. And then she's going to be looking at other environmental groups that can receive funds to help people do all this kind of stuff. So I just think that's really cool. It's nice to see her being recognized, and it's nice to see her helping others with the money. So I think that's really cool. Oh, sorry, I went backwards. Here we go. This I wanted to share. There is a fundraiser for a legal fund to help 4 activists who went and stormed a farm and exposed bad conditions for the animals, dying animals, sick animals, all this kind of stuff. They were arrested. They're being charged all under the guise of this animal agriculture gag laws that are in many places. There's a lot of information about their action and what they took. This was from the end of last year, and they are set to be in court pretty soon, and they do need a lot of help to be able to fight this legally, and hopefully they win their case in court. And they are arguing that they exposed really cruel conditions for the animals that violated the the welfare laws that exist, and of course the government is trying to basically show that they were trespassing and what have you. But their case is that without these kinds of cases of trespassing and documentation, we would never find out about these kind of cruel conditions that the animals endure and the suffering they face. And basically the abuses of the animal welfare standards that are supposedly there to protect not only the animals but the safety of humans who consume them. So hopefully they win their case in court. Please, if you can, donate to this and help their legal defense. Next article I just wanted to show you guys is about giraffes. This was an interesting one. They are extremely in perilous, dwindling numbers, but most people don't know how close to endangered they are, and this article is highlighting the need to put them on the Endangered Species Act, and talking about why potentially the U.S. isn't doing this, and basically they're not even going to decide on protecting them until 2025, which is kind of crazy because it shows here that their numbers have dwindled by 40%, leaving only around 68,000 mature adults in the wild. And they said, there's only 1 giraffe for every 4 African elephants, which themselves are considered a vulnerable species. So it's pretty crazy that people will go out and hunt giraffes still, and they bring back trophies to the U.S. and all this kind of stuff, and it's just insane. Like, why are they not protected? So this article is pretty interesting. It talks a lot about kind of the politics of it. So check it out if you get a chance. This next one was almost like I didn't even really look into it. I know a lot of people have covered this story already. I haven't even actually watched the videos like Happy Healthy Vegan did when I saw, but I didn't actually watch the video. James Blunt apparently got scurvy from following a carnivore diet for I don't know how many weeks. And I couldn't even tell. I think it was actually a while ago. So, I don't know how this is news. I'm not even sure why people talked about it. Maybe it's somebody on, if you know the story. But, I don't know. Like, I'm not a fan of his music. I only know that one song that was kind of popular, and I don't like it. So, it doesn't surprise me that he would do something kind of dumb like in college. I think he was trying to it says he was trying to irritate his vegan friends, and then he got scurvy. Like, big surprise, right? David helped me with the pronunciation. Cool. The H is silent, so it's Thunberg, but it's not easy for you guys to pronounce it anyway. So okay, but I'll try my best. Thunberg. Okay. Sounds like a waste of money. She should have got people to apply for grants. Yeah, I wish I had that money too. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there could be a lot of things to do, but I think some of the things that that she's going to push for, I'm sure, are going to be directly, impactful, I would say, and I think that was good. David, you're talking about James Blunt. Okay, so maybe he was on a podcast, and that's why it's news now. But I don't know. It's just like I don't know. Whenever I see like these famous people, like now, like I saw people making videos about Miley Cyrus not being vegan anymore. It's like I don't even care about these people. Like I almost kind of hate it when famous people have like these like oh, I'm vegan and blah blah blah, and then because when they go and they stop being vegan, then it's almost like it's worse than if they just never had opened their mouths to begin with. It's and in some ways, we're all guilty of it too. Like I'm happy to see people go vegan. I just showed you guys the story about Doyle and Elisa going vegan and what have you. So it's like it's nice to know, especially if you are a fan of somebody, like, oh, they're vegan, like that's cool. Like if you're a fan of her music or something. But it seems like a lot of people just do things to be trendy or to be kind of cool, or maybe her husband was vegan before. I think what's his face, Liam something or other. Like I don't follow these people, so it's like maybe she was vegan because of him, and then now that they're broken up, like now she's not. I don't know. I don't even care enough to like watch her reason for why she's not vegan anymore. Like I don't care, but I just thought this was kind of funny that he got scurvy. It reminded me of the guy that Logan Blake was always talking to. What was his face? Something Meat Man or Meteor Man, and how he got scurvy. I thought that was always pretty funny to me. One of the longtime viewers of the channel, I'm pretty sure it was Meat is Murder. He was always helping me out and commenting a lot on early videos that I did. I think this was recommended by him, if I remember right. But anyway, I just wanted to share it with you guys. If anybody's in the UK, supposedly this place is amazing for vegan hamburgers and basically like junk food kind of stuff. So check it out if you get a chance. It's in Liverpool in the UK. Frostburgers.com. This is their Instagram page. I'll have all the links just like normal in the thing. Okay, let's see. What are you guys saying? Leon says, no one said they liked him yet since it came up first. Yeah, I don't know. Not surprised. People flip-flop on addiction. That's where your life coach comes into play. Yeah, if people don't make it a lifestyle and they just don't even understand what they're doing, then it's just this trendy bandwagon thing to jump on and off. She sounded really hoarse too, like she's been a heavy smoker for years. Well, she has, and I mean, she smokes a lot of weed and does who knows what other kind of drugs. I don't know, like, who knows what kind of impact that had. I saw a great post on Twitter the other day, or maybe it was today. Somebody was saying about her, and they said like, look, she's admitted on going on various like drug binges, and she smokes a lot and all this kind of stuff, and she said she had brain fog or something. Like, well, maybe you had the brain fog from all the drugs you did. I don't know. Like, who knows? And I'm not even anti-drugs, so like, don't take it that way. I'm just saying, like, why is that somehow now a reason for her to go and kill fish or whatever she's eating? I don't even know. It just makes me upset. It's really stupid. Carrie, I recently moved and my new neighbors are big game hunters. Oh my God, that's awful. They were trying to convince me that they were helping the African economy and the people by paying money to hunt. It's just one of the craziest like logic like twists. I never understand that. They leave the meat and take the hides. Yeah, it's awful. Ugh. That's terrible. Sorry about that, Carrie. They're just getting people sick and spreading diseases. Weed isn't the problem. Weed helped her. Weed helps neuronal plasticity. She's just full of shit. Yeah, again, Daniel, I'm not even against, weed. I'm not against any kind of drugs, really. Like, I don't take them. I don't think it's something I want to, do, but, I certainly don't blame people, and I certainly don't want to stigmatize addiction, people who are actually addicted to something. I just think, like, for her to make any kind of excuses about brain fog and that's why she needs to eat fish, like, that's just, I don't want to even listen to the argument or the reasoning. Jen says, plus the brain damage from her dad's poor parenting skills. Yeah. She really needs her voice, though. Not sure how to recover from that. Leon, they have auto-tune for that, so I don't think she really needs her voice that much. As long as she kind of looks the way she does and she can dance around in videos, I think she'll continue to be successful. No, the other drugs were definitely involved, but even Vegan Gains was focusing on the weed. Okay, well, I don't know. Like I say, I haven't even watched any of the videos people have made about her. I don't even care. Like, I don't care enough about it to talk about it in any kind of detail. Good news, guys. Elephant shrew rediscovered in Africa after 50 years. They had thought this little guy was extinct, and now they found a whole bunch of them in this other area, and they were believed to be lost species, and now they can see that they're thriving and doing well in this other area. So that was kind of cute. One thing that I thought was kind of bad about this article is that now people are like flocking to this little area to study these guys, and they're basically catching them via like these live traps with peanut butter and whatever, so they can study them. And I really hope that they don't do this and just leave them alone. And I would hope that people respect these poor little guys instead of trying to catch them and study them. And usually, I think studying them, who knows what they do to them if they kill them at the end or whatever. So I don't like that part. But anyway, moving on. Trump is in the final push to open up Alaska's Arctic refuge to oil and gas drilling. This is absolutely terrible. I can't believe that this would actually be allowed to happen. It's just terrible. And in light of all the stuff I've been covering earlier, talking about the the environmental impact of greenhouse gas emissions and fossil fuels and all this kind of stuff, to make even more kind of drilling and more oil and everything. Like, it's just I don't know how this is going to be allowed. It's just crazy. I hope it doesn't happen. Another petition for you guys to sign. This one is for UK-based residents, I believe, if I remember right. They are trying to block a marshland. This is Swanscombe marshland from a development that is going to make basically a Disney-style theme park, London resort theme park. So, hyped as the UK's Disneyland, much of the unique habitat of Swanscombe marshes would be destroyed and concreted. The wildlife riches of the site simply will not survive this development. So please, if you can, sign this and help them fight this to protect their wetland and all the various wildlife that lives there and depends on it. So please check this out. Yeah, I hope you're right, Daniel, about the little shrews or whatever, the elephant shrew. I hope they don't kill them, but I just don't like them being messed with in any way. They should just leave them alone. Proper animal studies should be done without disturbing them. Exactly. Like, you could still, like you say, pick up scat and samples and maybe fur or whatever, like left over from the ground or something. I don't know. Like, they should just not be messed with. Yeah, tell it to the hawks and the snakes. Well, but again, if they're doing fine in that area, like, it shouldn't be people going in there and messing with them. You should just leave them alone, I think. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, next up, we've got Farmers Weekly. If you're ever in the need of a good laugh, like, you should read Farmers Weekly. This is not one of those articles for a laugh. This one is talking about these poor farmers who are going to probably go out of business because they were forced to kill 60% of their cows in just 16 months because they all got bovine tuberculosis. So bovine TB is the thing that is used as the excuse to kill all of the badgers in the UK. So there's been tens of thousands of badgers being killed in the UK for I don't even know how many years now. It's ridiculous. I've done it in a previous live stream where I talked about this, how it has nothing to do with the badgers. It has to do with the amount of mileage that the animals are transported from one place to another, and that is actually causing the spread of the bovine tuberculosis. But this one is just talking about how this poor farm, their multi-award winning herd of whatever these kinds of cow types are, and how distraught they are after having to destroy more of their animals. And so they've had to kill 138 of their cows since April 2019, and yeah, they're so sad, and they had to kill this one cow that was such a nice cow, and their kids were crying that they didn't want to kill that one, and they were talking about how some test was like, like they weren't even sure that the cow was sick because it had failed one test but passed another, and an inconclusive test, and blah blah blah, and like just like total disconnect. Like if you want to see you know cognitive dissonance in action, just like read this article. It's crazy, like how the farmers think they're loving their cows and whatever, but it's like they don't talk about the fact that these cows would all get killed anyway at the end when they can't produce milk anymore, and they have no qualms about artificially inseminating them, taking their babies, all this kind of stuff. It's just crazy. Like the cognitive dissonance is so strong, and the Farmers Weekly is just a perfect place to see it. It's kind of ridiculous. I certainly hope you're right, Daniel, that animal products will be illegal in 20 years. Who knows, man? I hope so. With this pandemic, it probably helps bolster those arguments. And this was another nice farmer that was arrested, and he's being tried for blackmailing Tesco. He purposely contaminated baby food. And I forget what he put in there. I think it was like metal or sharp, like bits of metal. And then he was calling them and basically telling them that if they don't wire him some Bitcoin payment of 1.4 million pounds, that he wouldn't tell them which of the stores he hid the contaminated baby food jars in. And then they basically, found out. And it turns out that he was disgruntled because he thought that Tesco was underpaying him for the stuff that they paid farmers for the things that that he was selling. So it's just it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know, seems like a nice guy, typical farmer. Anyway, I already talked about Regan being killed by the driver. This, I don't actually know the details of how this animal activist passed. I don't know. The article doesn't say, but in case anybody knows this person from Brooklyn, Shimon Shukat passed. He was 22 years old, and he was a very dedicated animal rights activist in the New York City area, and I just thought this was a pretty touching memorial or whatever written about him, so I just wanted to share this article with people as well. He grew up in an ultra-Orthodox Jewish home, and then he later became an atheist, and he basically took very strongly to animal rights, and he questioned why people treated animals the way they did, and he did a lot to try to bring awareness, and he worked tirelessly in New York working for animal rights, and seems like a very nice person, and to die that young is very tragic. I don't know the details of his death. So I just, I guess, want to give my condolences to the family and any friends, and basically, may he rest in peace, and just wanted to share that with people, especially if anybody's watching from the New York area, maybe you knew him. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, angry vegan. It is weird, and I would say kind of like ironically, kind of like funny how farmers do play the victim. Like they're always victimized. They're always working so hard. They're always protecting their animals that they love so much, and all this kind of stuff. It's insane. Yeah. So anyway, seems like a good voice for the animals was lost there. And like I say, Regan Russell was the lady who was hit by the truck. And this one, I just wanted to show that, this is the kind of response that somebody like that gets. There was I guess like a memorial held for Regan Russell by family and friends. And there was a counter kind of, gathering or protest or whatever you want to call. Basically, they had signs up that were really derogatory and antagonizing towards Regan, and it was obviously very disturbing to her friends and family. And as they say here, beyond the signs, these counter-protesters continue to spout hateful rhetoric, which can be freely viewed online, posted by activists from both sides. The constant sexist, racially insensitive, and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric from their peanut gallery and the acceptance of it is a sign of the absolutely vile and downright hateful energy fueling their opposition to the compassionate community of animal advocates. And I just think, like, it's just so sad when you think, again, that somebody who dedicated their life to helping others and trying to speak up for animals and be a voice for the voiceless, and giving water to pigs who haven't had water in potentially days and are in extreme heat, and then being run over by a truck for simply doing that. And then, you know, if that weren't bad enough and tragic enough, to have somebody go and taunt and try to humiliate the family and friends of this person, like, how sad does your life have to be, and how strong that cognitive dissonance is that that people don't see this. Like, it's just shocking. This was very, very disturbing to hear that this kind of stuff is happening. It's very sad. Yeah, it is way too young to die, Leon. You're right. So Randy, how did he die? I don't know, and the article doesn't say, and I haven't been able to find any other information about him. Daniel says, I think he was hit by a car. Did he jump in front of the car? I don't know. I really don't know the story about that. Just like the abolitionists of old, except they didn't free the animals as well. Yeah. Randy, why would you stand in front of a truck? That's not smart. The truck was stopped at a red light, and she was on a sidewalk, and then the truck came careening at her, and she was on the sidewalk. So basically, like, he, you know, the driver ran her over. Like, it wasn't like, from what I understand, it wasn't like, you know, an accident. He basically ran over this person on purpose. So look into it. Check out the details. This was something I just wanted to share. I haven't tried this recipe yet, but it seems really good. It's a vegan egg tart custard recipe. So check it out. It looks really good. People on Twitter highly recommended it, and it seems like it looks pretty cool. So check it out if anybody's in the market for that and you want to make it. This I just wanted to share. It was really cool. I hadn't heard of this technique before, but apparently there's this ancient Japanese technique of growing wood without having to cut down trees for lumber. So what they do is they have this technique called daisugi, and they basically have a special type of cedar that they coppice in a certain way. I think that's the right word for it, but anyway. And basically, it produces these very, very straight shoots that go up out of the main kind of stem of this tree. And then they can just harvest those little, you know, like straight shoots, and it makes extremely strong and extremely straight lumber. And it's very cool. So, and they've been doing this since the 14th century. It's ancient technology. And they have really cool pictures of these examples of these trees growing like this. I just thought this was fascinating and just wanted to share it. So, yeah, it's really cool, and they show some examples of the things that were used for, you know, from this wood for building. So, yeah, it's the lumber produced in this method is 140% as flexible as standard cedar and 200% as dense or strong. So it was like really great for rafters and other kinds of like roofing timbers and things like this. It's pretty cool. I really like it. And apparently it's still popular in Japan just for gardening and like showing off like ornamental garden kind of stuff. But I wonder if this couldn't be, you know, done commercially in other places. Although it, I think in the article they do say that it's only some specific type of tree that has some kind of, I don't remember if it's like a genetic mutation or something that allows it to do this, but yeah, they do coppicing of other types of trees in other areas of the world, but it's pretty cool. I just thought they looked really fascinating, almost kind of otherworldly. I really like these kinds of things. Oh shoot, I spilled my tea. Darn, went on my keyboard. Hopefully it doesn't fry the computer. If I go out, guys, that's why. But anyway, I shouldn't have tea here. Anyway, Okay, cool. Um, do, 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 do. Yeah, David says there was a long trail of blood before he stopped. So the truck driver really does seem to have intentionally killed that person. I mean, like, there's no question about that. Daniel, about the tart, I don't even know what's in there, but I'll have the link in there. You can check it out after. Lab would be easy too. I don't know. Yeah, 14th century is pretty advanced. Yeah, exactly. 200 years away from Syrian alchemy. Custard trees, you could chop them on, and there's custard in the middle. Anyway, cool. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are still there. But anyway, the world's smelliest fruit could power your phone. This was a very fascinating article talking about the need for replacing batteries. So the current battery technology we have is extremely damaging to the environment, and also it's very kind of bad as far as like labor and child labor specifically and all this kind of stuff. And this article talks about the social, the environmental, kind of like the human impact and the need and our ever increasing growing demand for more and more batteries, and talking about the various options. And it was a very interesting article talking about the new kind of technology that could be available in the coming years to replace the batteries of today. And one of the things they found was that they could make certain types of batteries out of even jackfruit and durian, which I thought was really cool. So they take like a lot of the pulp and the parts that are not edible anyway and are usually thrown away, so you just have this like waste product, and they can turn the parts that are inedible anyway, and they turn them into carbon aerogels, porous super light solids with exceptional natural energy storage properties. They heated, freeze-dried, and then baked the inedible spongy core of each fruit in an oven at super high temperatures, so it's like 1500 Celsius, 2732 Fahrenheit. And then the black, highly porous, ultralight structures, they were left with, could then be fashioned into electrodes of a low-cost supercapacitor. So they could be charged really quickly, they held like power and all this kind of stuff. And then they talk about other kinds of things. They were looking at hogweed, a weed with toxic sap that can blister human skin, into a raw material for a supercapacitor. They were able to charge a phone. Then they talk about making diamonds into batteries using like this radioactive technology, and how apparently it's still safe because it would be at a very low level of radiation and blah blah blah, and it could last like hundreds, potentially like 1,000 years. And all this kind of interesting stuff. So really interesting article. Definitely check this out. I thought this was very, very cool. If anybody's into technology and kind of like just the sciencey kind of stuff, like I thought this was really cool. Check it out. Next, really good bit of news for vegans in Britain. I say that this was actually kind of sad in a way, because the need for having food banks is just very sad to begin with. But the fact that if you do need to get help and get food, that you can get vegan options, I think that's wonderful and amazing. Sorry, meanwhile I'm taking tea off of other things that I just noticed got soaked here, which is not good. And basically, this is nice that they have vegan alternatives available for people, which is great. So that's kind of nice. Moving on. I wanted to share this pretty cool article with you guys about Woody Guthrie. He was a folk musician back in the, I don't even know when that was, probably like 40s, I think, maybe, in the US, or 50s. And there's a lot of kind of people that would know his songs. I know as a kid growing up in the US, like we always had to sing, this land is your land, this land is my land, blah, blah, blah. And that was one of his songs. And he was extremely political, actually, and I did not know that about him. And this article talks about some of the things that that he wrote and did and protested for and all this kind of stuff, and it was very, very interesting. I'm going to have to get a rag at some point. And one of the things that they had was one of the, I don't know if it was a poem or if it was a song, but this was the words that he wrote. I suppose that old man Trump knows just how much racial hate he stirred up in that blood pot of human hearts when he drawed that color line here at his Beach Haven family project. Woody Guthrie wrote those lyrics in the early 1950s when he spent 2 years living in the Beach Haven apartment complex in Brooklyn. The song Old Man Trump refers to Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father, who owned the complex and allegedly barred African Americans from renting units. So just very interesting, and how they have kind of come full circle to the current person. So it's very interesting. Definitely check this out if you guys get a chance. I thought it was just very, very cool. Science has been really taking off. Well, yeah, let's hope so, man. The potato battery, yeah. I mean, that would be awesome. Oh, David, your friend's laptop keyboard broke that way. Well, yeah, hopefully this thing will dry out. It didn't get that much tea in there. It's mostly on the table here. But anyway, we'll see. Linus Tech Tips made a video about washing keyboards in the dishwasher. It seems to work as long as it's dried properly. Interesting. Okay. I don't have any sugar in the tea anyway, so it'll be just like water, basically. I think it'll just dry and it'll be fine. Hopefully. That magazine that I threw on the ground won't be. Diamond and graphite is pretty much the same. The structure is just a bit different. Yeah, that's cool. I hate that it says for vegans. Like, why can't it be for everyone? It's not like all non-vegan. It's eat only meat. I'm not sure which thing you were talking about. Anyway, yep, old Trumpy Wumpy. Okay, this one was just a crazy, hunting story. I always have a few of these in these news live streams. A bow hunter went out and shot a elk, and it didn't die. And the reason why I wanted to include this article here for your consideration is for anybody who's watching who's not vegan and supports hunting. There's this idea, like, by the typical kind of like pro-hunter people like Joe Rogan and whatever. It's like, oh, you get this nice clean shot, you give the animal a nice quick clean death and whatever. No, it's not always a nice quick clean death, and I certainly wouldn't want this done to me. He basically shot this elk and wounded it with an arrow. The poor thing struggled and was out all night, and then the next day the hunter went back to try to find the elk and kill it, and he tracked it down and he tried killing it, except that he failed to kill it, and the elk then gored the guy in the neck with his antlers, and later the guy actually died. He was a 66-year-old guy, Mark David, and then the poor elk was killed anyway. It's pretty sad, actually. I feel bad for the elk, it's just it's like, why do people do things like this? It just it makes no sense, and it's so sad that like somebody takes pleasure out of going and killing this beautiful animal, and even at the cost of their own lives sometimes. Like they think this is somehow okay. And how many times? I mean, I've covered these stories before. The guy's falling off the cliff. The guy's shooting himself, shooting his friend. Just like I've had so many of these stories. Like people get lost in the woods, they freeze to death, like all this kind of stuff. Like, why do people think this is fun? I just don't understand it. It's ridiculous. Anyway, there is a push now to ban live export from New Zealand. In case anybody hasn't seen it, there was a livestock carrier with I don't know how many thousands of cows. I think it was like over 5,000 cows, if I remember right, something like that. Some large number of cows. Yeah, 5,800 cows and 43 crew members. And I don't know if all of them are believed to be dead, but I think they are. I think they basically think this ship sank. There was a typhoon that was in that area, and I think they found like one guy in a lifeboat or something. And a man in a life jacket nearby. But I don't even know if that guy was alive or not. But basically, I think the boat sank, and now there's a petition to pressure the New Zealand government to ban live export. Now, obviously, from the state of the poor animals, like they're getting killed anyway. So like my mind is always like, they'll just kill the animals domestically and then ship the bodies. But in some ways, is it less stressful and less, torture for them? I don't know. Who knows? I really don't even want to speculate on this. And I just think it's kind of like odd. But what I do like about these kind of drives and these petitions is that it really exposes to the public the suffering that these poor animals endure. And also, in this case, the suffering of the people working on the ship, that they all drowned at sea. it really is kind of crazy, and I hope that it makes people think about what they're doing and why are they doing this to begin with. And a lot of the reason for live export is a, kind of, it just really highlights the greed of the producers and the countries involved, because what they do is they ship these animals to areas of the world where there are very oftentimes poor animal quote-unquote welfare standards to begin with. And the reason they're doing it is because in places where there is a demand for either halal or kosher meat, the animals have to be killed in very specific kind of like things that meet the religious requirements of these cultures, and that's why they require the animals to be shipped live, because they want to make sure that they're killed in accordance with their own local kind of traditions. And even if people like in New Zealand or Australia or the US or anywhere in Europe, UK, whatever, that they oppose these kind of like no stun kill methods in like kosher, in halal, they will still send and betray the animals and send them there to be killed in these horrific ways, where even the people who support the killing of these animals, they are still even opposed to those, but they'll still support it because they're so greedy that they'll just do it anyway. So like I say, in some ways I am happy to see that people like are speaking up against this, but in some ways it's kind of like, is it going to mean less animals getting killed? Probably not. But I think if nothing else, some people will probably see this and maybe piece one and one together and get two, and get them to start looking at other information and questioning their their own kind of like choices, and I think that would be good. Okay, so oh, David, you washed your earbuds in the washing machine. I've done that before, and they worked fine. I have sport like earbuds somewhere. I don't even know where they are now, but they're like little Bluetooth things, and wash them out. They're still awesome. They still work. I was really happy about that. They're Plantronics. They work great. Randy, I hate that it says for vegans. Like, why can't it be for? Oh, in there you were talking about the food bank. Yeah. It's not for just vegans. They actually will supply food for everybody, and they even say that too. But it's just that all of the food they provide is vegan, which that was kind of the point. But they'll give food to anybody, even non-vegans. Yeah, sorry about that. Nature's crazy. I'm so glad I live in the modern world. Ponies. What was the ponies comment for? Did I miss something? Anyway, as far as I know, transporting livestock is not halal to begin with. See, I didn't even know that, Leon, but I think that's a lot of it does get shipped to places where that's kind of the point. I know, like Australia had kind of like a lot of debate about sending stuff to Saudi Arabia and other areas in the Middle East, and I think that's why they were being sent there, is because they want to kill them locally according to their own traditions. So if that's not even if that's already not halal to begin with, then I mean that's just like ridiculous. The only difference is not stunning them yet. And the sad thing is, I think a lot of people, vegans and non-vegans in general, use this whole thing of like halal and kosher and all this kind of stuff as sort of like this racist argument that somehow Muslims or Jewish people or whoever, whatever kind of no stun method we're talking about, are somehow worse or more evil or bad or whatever. And it's really funny when like non-vegan people try to argue about this kind of stuff. It's very clearly like racially motivated, I think. But if you just look at it as at face value, they're doing nothing different than what people in the West are doing. Like, they are trying, according to their own like thinking and their own culture's dictations of religious norms and whatever you want to call it. They are trying to give the animal the most peaceful death possible. Now, you can argue all you want about, kosher killing being like better or worse or but it doesn't matter. The point is their intention is that they want to give the animal this respectful kind of death, and that's what white people in the West are trying to do as well by stunning them. It's just that you believe that stunning them is somehow makes it okay, and they believe that saying a prayer and using some particular kind of knife and some particular type of cut is okay. Like, neither are okay, and it's completely hypocritical to lambaste somebody based on like, oh well, you're this backward, you know, person and you take your thing from religion. Well, okay, well, you know, I think you're backward because you think stunning it and shooting a bolt through its brain is nice and kind. I don't think it's nice and kind at all. And you know, what do you base that on? There isn't even any science that shows that that is you know, good or effective or whatever. So like, you know, one person bases it on some kind of religion or some kind of religious belief or whatever, and another person bases it on their wanting it to be true and no actual science or kind of factual support either. So it's like, it makes no sense to me. I don't understand. And then a lot of people, I think, do use this as kind of like a good, you know, attack against a particular, you know, racial group or religious group or whatever. So I find it particularly a difficult situation and frustrating. Okay, guys, I'm almost done, and then I really got to go because it's really late, and I got to get up early. And I'm sure Mrs. Ceo's pissed off at me because she's over in the other room, like, trying to sleep. Plant-based living, Indian food. This is a wonderful blog that I got hip to from Twitter, and it's basically, yeah, plant-based Indian living. If you are fond of Indian food and a follower of whole food plant-based diet, this is your destination for all you need to know. It's got a bunch of recipes for various Indian dishes, and they're all whole food plant-based, and I think it's mostly, or maybe all, oil-free too. If it's not all oil-free, don't quote me on that, but I think it is. And they just seem really, really nice. And I read the little story about the couple and kind of their, you know, their journey to a whole food plant-based diet and their weight loss and their success with it and all this kind of stuff. And it's really cool. So check this out. Give it a shot. If you're in Hungary, in Budapest, they are going to be having a vegan weekend market, September 12th to 13th. So this is coming up in you know, in a couple weeks or a week and a half. I've been to this event before. I've done a video showcasing it in the past. If you're in Hungary and you know, you can, then go check it out. And they have wonderful food there. They have tons of different booths with various different you know, kind of like you know, food options, and you can buy cruelty-free, you know, soap and shampoos and candles, and I don't even know what other kind of handicrafts and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Definitely recommend it for anybody in the area. So that's pretty much it. If you guys want to see that, I think I did one a while back. Yeah, here it is. Vegan Sunday Market in Budapest. So check that out if you guys haven't seen it. They have tons of cool stuff. So oh, this one is it too. Vegan food in Budapest. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If anybody has any questions, feel free. Let me jump back here to my webcam view. There we go. And anyway, I think I'm going to end it here, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks everybody for being on. Appreciate all the support. I hope everybody's good. I will try to do these news live streams on a more regular basis again, because I know it has been quite a while since I've done one. And I do have fun doing them, and I think people enjoy them. So if you did like it, please do give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in another video soon. It was great to see a lot of the old you know, names and faces, and hope everybody's good, and be nice to each other, and yeah, see you soon. Thanks everybody. Bye.